Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, they are so subtle they could milk you with two notes. They could go no farther than from an A to a B, and they could make you feel like they told you the whole universe. And Otis, my man, I think maybe if I keep singing, maybe I'll get it. Those were Janis Joplin's words, her own description of the singers she was reaching toward, the voices she measured herself against and found herself, honestly, with no false modesty, still short of. Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin, and Otis, my man. This is the story of what Otis Redding meant to Janis Joplin, and of the performance that never happened, the duet that no one ever got to hear, the two voices that were building toward each other and never arrived. Otis Redding was born September 9, 1941, in Dawson, Georgia. He grew up in Macon, he sang in church, he listened to Little Richard, who was also from Macon, and understood immediately that something was possible with a voice that he had not yet imagined. He recorded his first single in 1960. He drove his band's van to recording sessions to pay the bills. He played small clubs on the Chitlin circuit. He was 20 years old and working. In 1962, he drove a group of musicians to a Stax Records session in Memphis and got 30 minutes of studio time at the end of the session to record something of his own. He recorded These Arms of Mine. It went to number 20 on the R&B charts. He was signed. He was on his way. What Otis Redding had, what Janis heard when she described him alongside Billie Holiday and Aretha Franklin, was the ability to make rawness into precision. He was not a subtle singer in the way Aretha was subtle. He was a powerful singer who used that power with such complete control that every note felt inevitable. He didn't reach for a note, he arrived at it, always, from exactly the right direction, and he could break your heart with a single syllable. The way he held the word try in Try a Little Tenderness, the specific ache in it, the syllable doing the work of a paragraph. That was what Janis was reaching for. The thing you can do when power and precision become the same instrument. Janis Joplin first saw Otis Redding perform at the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco in 1966. She had been in the city for a few months. She was singing with Big Brother. She was not yet famous. She was a girl from Port Arthur, Texas, who had found her way to Haight-Ashbury and was beginning to understand what her voice could do. She stood in the audience at the Fillmore and watched Otis Redding, and something happened to her that people who were there remembered for the rest of their lives. She grabbed the person beside her. She couldn't speak. She just pointed at the stage and held on. He was doing the thing, the two notes, the syllable that broke your heart. The power that was also precision, the rawness that was also control. She had never seen it done live before. She had heard it on records. Now she was in the room with it. She went home that night and sang differently. Everyone who was there said so. Monterey Pop Festival, June 1967. Both of them on the same bill. Otis performed on Saturday night. Janis performed on Sunday afternoon. The performance that Mama Cass watched and mouthed the word wow and pointed at the stage. They were at the same festival, they were on the same grounds, they were in the same backstage area. There is no documented record of them having a significant conversation at Monterey. There is no photograph of them together. There is no account from either of them about what the other one said. What there is, Otis Redding watching other performances from the wings. Janis performing the set that would make her famous. Two of the greatest voices of their generation in the same place at the same time. And no duet, no meeting, no moment that was captured. 6 months later, it became impossible. December 10, 1967, Otis Redding boarded a small twin-engine Beechcraft plane in Cleveland, Ohio, heading to a performance in Madison, Wisconsin. The plane went down in Lake Monona, 3 miles from the Madison airport. Otis Redding was 26 years old. 4 members of his backing band, the Bar-Kays, also died. 3 days later, December 13, 1967, his recording of Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay was completed with overdubs. He had recorded the song just days before the crash. He would never hear the finished version. It became his first and only #1 single, released posthumously in January 1968. Janis Joplin heard about the crash in San Francisco. She was 24 years old. She had just begun to understand what she was capable of. The Fillmore concert was behind her. Monterey was behind her. Cheap Thrills was still ahead of her. She was still becoming who she would be, and Otis, my man, was gone. What did she lose when Otis Redding died? Not just a voice she loved, a standard she was reaching toward. When you are building yourself as an artist, you need people ahead of you, people who show you the territory beyond where you currently are. People whose work says, this is possible, this place exists, you can get here if you keep going. Otis Redding was one of those people for Janis Joplin. The two notes, the syllable that breaks your heart, the rawness that is also precision. Maybe if I keep singing, maybe I'll get it. She kept singing. She sang for 3 more years. She got closer. He was gone at 26. She was gone at 27. Neither of them old enough to see what they might have become. Try just a little bit harder. Janis covered it in 1969 with the Cosmic Blues Band. It became one of her signature live performances, the song she sang when she wanted to show what she could do, when she wanted to reach for the thing Otis had that she was still trying to find. Listen to her sing it. The way she attacks the word try, the way she leans into harder, the specific places where she restrains herself and then releases, the Otis lesson, the lesson of 2 notes, the lesson she was still learning. She was getting closer. The Cosmic Blues reviews were mixed. The critics said she didn't suit the soul format. They said Big Brother had been better for her. They said she was reaching for something she couldn't find. They were wrong about what she was reaching for. She was reaching for Otis, for the place where power becomes precision, for the 2 notes that say the whole universe. She wasn't there yet, but she was going. Dock of the Bay was released January 8, 1968. Otis Redding was dead. The song went to #1. He became posthumously one of the defining voices of his era. Pearl was released January 11, 1971. Janis Joplin was dead. The album went to #1. She became posthumously one of the defining voices of her era. Both of them heard at full volume only after they were gone. Both of them reaching, in their final recordings, for the thing just beyond. Otis recorded Dock of the Bay 3 days before his death. He sat at a piano in a Memphis studio and found something quieter and more restrained than anything he had recorded before. The 2 notes, the whole universe. Janis recorded Mercedes-Benz 3 days before her death. She stood alone at a microphone in a Los Angeles studio and found something quieter and more precise than anything she had recorded before: the pause, the held note, the specific weight of the release, both of them at the end finding it. Here is what this story asks you. Is there someone whose absence left a gap in what you were building? Not just someone you missed personally, someone whose presence in the world was making your own work possible, and whose absence made something harder to reach. Janis Joplin lost Otis Redding in December 1967. She was 24, he was 26. They had been at the same festival 6 months earlier and never made the record together, never sang the song together, never found out what those 2 voices could have done in the same room at the same time. And Otis, my man, she said it until the end, his name in that sentence, his place in the list of the people whose voices showed her where she was going. She kept singing. She didn't get to keep singing long enough. But for 3 years after his death, every time she stood at a microphone and reached for the thing just beyond her current grasp, she was reaching for him too. Subscribe. The next story goes somewhere nobody has taken you before.